morning. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X, and this is another Sunday morning sketch. Shockingly still on Sunday, and not so shockingly in the morning. Did that make sense? It didn't make sense. That doesn't matter. I'm going to sketch something. Alright, this morning, I kind of pulled this one out of nowhere. I haven't played the game in quite a long time, but I'm going to do Eddie Riggs from Brutal Legend, which is easily one of my favorite gaming experiences of my life. Brutal Legend was a wonderful game. I don't care what anyone else's opinion of it was. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I'm also drawing this because I really want this fig. This is not an illustration. This is a, I don't know, I think it's 12, 14 something inches tall painted fig they did of him. I can't afford it. It's amazing. I love this thing. It's so cheesy and so over the top and so beautifully done. And anyways, that's it. I'm gonna draw Eddie this morning because he is a wonderful, funny character, voiced by Jack Black. So things that I kind of liked about Brutal Legend was, and I think this is really a brilliant way of doing stuff these days, is, well, frankly, it was a love letter to heavy metal culture, heavy metal cover designs. The soundtrack was all actual, real heavy metal, and a lot of it. There were heavy metal dudes actually voice acting in it. There was Halford, there was Osborne. Shoot, I think Lemmy was in there. And, well, Jack Black, I think not. Well, he is. He's more of a voice actor. He's definitely a music guy. Anywho, anyone who hasn't played Brutal Legend, and I don't blame you if you're not into metal, I get it. It's by design, not for everybody. But they made the game that way. They specifically designed the whole thing for, I mean, there was heavy metal jokes in there that only heavy metal fans would kind of get, and some of which were actually, I won't say just darn clever, but there was sections in there where they just suddenly dropped into a music video to tell the story of what was going on. Eddie was wonderful. He was a roadie, and he started in, the present day, and I mean literally present day, 5 years ago or whatever. But anyways, after the notable heyday of heavy metal, and he's like working for a boy band, and he clearly hates what's happened to music and heavy metal, and then gets killed during the concert. And because of a magical heavy metal belt buckle he was wearing, was taken back to the age of metal, and had a wonderful heavy metal adventure as he found out, his magical heavy metal roots. The whole thing was just brilliantly wonderful. It was just as funny as it was serious about loving heavy metal. It made fun of it just a little bit, just enough tongue-in-cheek where people go like, okay, yeah, ha, 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 ha. But then also clearly really loved it. Like, the landscape was made up of, in essence, the giant weird monuments you saw in, heavy metal covers. like giant stone devil horns coming up out of the ground with, holding a chain with anvils, and just, it was so kind of ridiculously over the top. I thought it was wonderful. Not to mention, it was finally really, not that I don't like the soundtracks to games. I think a lot of games have a lot of really good ones. But this one, I mean, really, there's a moment where I'm just going down in his heavy metal dragster, going down the road, and shoot, Hellion from, Judas Priest comes on. And I don't care if you know that song or not, that was a magical gaming moment. I was, totally Wow. I mean, really cool, and you're burning rubber and fires going everywhere, and you're fighting demons to Hellion by Judas Priest. And I'm like, yeah. It was fun. It was a really great game. Let me zoom in here now that I have an idea of roughly where he is sitting on the page. Oh. It's funny, I've kind of learned, and I mean, I knew it when I started, but kind of how wonderfully therapeutic doing this is. I'm fairly certain if nobody ever showed up, which happens often enough, thank you to everybody who does show up, but it's not like I have a huge number of people watching. I'm fairly certain I'd just be doing this anyway. I hope it's not because I love the sound of my own voice. I hope it's not. I hope it's not that reason. For anyone whom is wondering, because there's no one way of sketching. When I draw a character out, and a lot of people go like, "You're doing way more work than is probably necessary for drawing these characters." And I'm like, well, firstly, that is either true or not true. It depends upon where you're coming from. And in the people that can like draw a character in 45 seconds, I am not like those guys. I kind of wish I was. But one of the ways that I draw is I try to figure out the general planes of the face and stuff. So to me, the characters don't exist in a flat, abstract, two-dimensional way. I try to really make them like round in my head, so if I need to rotate them around or whatever, I can, or at least stand a chance of doing so. I've got some bad days where I can't do it at all, but yeah, so to me, the Michelangelo's David or Da Vinci's Mona Lisa or Davis's Garfield is like the same thing to me. A lot of people, for some reason, want to separate them out, and I don't think they're separate. I think that's the same skill. It's just simply drawing. As a matter of fact, if I recall correctly from my art history, when the old masters, and don't tell me exactly at what year, because I don't recall when the word came about, when they're doing their little sketches and figuring stuff out, those were referred to as cartoons. So to me, a cartoon character and a painting is really the same thing to me. I see very little differentiation besides maybe the amount of time executing that it takes. So when people try to like downgrade cartooning, I always end up kind of looking at them, including, by the way, people that do cartooning. They're like, oh, it's only blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, it really is all the same skill. It just depends upon how much time you want to take doing it and how much, and what kind of resources you want to use to execute it. So when somebody shows me a really well executed cartoon character, I can very much see the same level of mastery as like the Mona Lisa and all that. So I really don't like it when people just sort of make these broad art assumptions. I mean, it's one thing if you're an artist and you have an opinion and you do it. I have a lot of respect for that because I'm like, well, you do it, so you should have an opinion about it. But when people that don't do artwork try to tell me that a cartoon is useless or worthless, or it's just, or a video game character, or somebody gets all anti classics and just goes like, oh, these old guys, it was all stiff and blah blah blah, and has it's all great. It's all artwork to me. It's all, which is really funny. A lot of people, I for some reason don't see Da Vinci or Michelangelo as a character designer, and yet clearly they were. Like I could have seen them like today, being hired in like the guys that did the book illustrations for Lord of the Rings was hired in to do the Lord of the Rings movies. I mean, those guys are serious book illustrators, and they came in and they did design for movies. So it's like, man, if the old masters were alive today, who knows what they'd be working on? A lot of these guys were the rock stars of their day, so to say, like Wagner. I mean, clearly that old German opera guy. He was like the rock star. He was like a heavy metal dude of his day, kind of bringing it back to Eddie Riggs. And so I always find it funny when people start getting all snobby and stuff. And it goes both ways. There's snobs on both sides, which I'm kind of sick of snobs at this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have personal opinions, but at the end of the day, I firmly believe that if I don't like something, it's just not my business. It's somebody else's. Yeah, it's such a nice model. Look at this model. This is wonderful. I mean, they just got everything just right. I think it was like $250, $300. That is so outside of my price range. Matter of fact, I don't have any figs, which is, well, no, I take that back. I have a couple little ones, but none of these like newer, wonderful, expensive ones. These are gorgeous. Anyway, so I was looking for character to do this morning. I ran across this fig and went, I gotta do Eddie Riggs because I always wanted this fig. Oh well. Hey, what other reason do you need to do something, I guess? I mean, it takes a real freaking sculptural artist to take a character, and not to say that Eddie Riggs was a bad character. He wasn't. He was clearly 3D designed in the game and stuff, but it just really interpreted him well in this image. And it'll take me a moment getting this mouth right. I always loved mouths that look like that. For some reason, I just always have a tough time doing them. And I kind of know how to draw mouths fairly well, and it's still just tough. So man, anybody out there that just is learning how to draw and stuff, just stay on it. You're always going to get something, do something, draw something, erase something wrong. I've been doing this for about 21 years now, and I still have a hard time doing some things. There we go. That's a little better. Yeah, I was so ticked when and it was right after Brutal Legend came out too. That oh, what was the wonderful company that made it? I'm blanking on their name right now. Anyways, they got bought out. And my understanding was is they were going to go directly into Brutal Legend 2, and instead they got picked up in... And I mean, the game that they put together, I played it. It was a nice game, but it was... I think it was like a Halloween multiplayer kind of... like Y7 game or whatever, and I thought it was cute, and hopefully it made the money and all that, but... I just kind of felt ripped off because they clearly, at the end of Brutal Legend, had a place where there was a direction for the next game, which wasn't like plot. It was like there was characters, like were clearly like my favorite kind of bit, as dark as it was, is at the end of the game, Eddie's love interest had been basically turned into a depressive alcoholic by the end of the game. And it wasn't like a nihilistic kind of thing. It really looked like they were like, no, there's more story coming. See what happens to these characters, and boom, bought out. Maybe, hopefully, someday they'll get back and give me a sequel. Because man, I love Brutal Legend. And from what I understand, it did well enough. Like a lot of people played it and liked it, and thinking even like the non-metal people were probably enjoyed it too, because it was a fun game with fun characters and had just enough kind of over the top ironic, like kind of giggling at metal to go for the people that just wanted to sort of giggle at the whole culture. But yeah, it's a shame they didn't make another one. Yeah, I'm not really interested in just drawing a character just real quick. I'm more interested in kind of sort of really understanding how their face goes together and how the lines work, and so that way the next time I do the next character, I kind of, can build a big library in my head of all these sort of different, like character assembly techniques, I guess. I always wanted to be a character guy, working cartoons and movies and stuff, but as is the fate of many, just, wasn't good enough for companies to call me back. Lucky I got the job I got. Just kind of wished I could have been a character guy. Can't complain. There's a lot of people in the world not doing too well, and I've got a job, so I most certainly cannot complain. So that's why I'm doing this. I love this. For all you youngins, it's no big deal, but I'm like 40 now. So the wife is at a convention right now, and she's and it's a small one. There's no need for me to be there, so I'm doing my vid here. But I'm still in contact with her. She sold herself an enamel pin, her first one, which is awfully cool. She had them manufactured in China and all that. Sure would like to be able to say I had it manufactured in America, but like we can afford that. But had the whole thing. She sourced the whole thing, designed it. You know, now she's selling them, and good for her. Feel as if this head is perhaps a little too big. Yeah. Eddie's got a bony, meaty head. So I made his cranium a little too large. I'm going to make him a little more jaw strong. Don't want to make him look too brainy. Yeah, that's probably about right for now. Actually, as I'm talking to you, I should have responded to my wife. Yeah. Note to guys out there, respond to your wife. Don't forget to respond to your wife. Woo, how did I stay married so long? Okay. There we go. And husbandly duty fulfilled. Okay. Yeah, I just got a smiley face with a little licky tongue thing coming out of it. I got a silly smiley face. Oh, emoticon, how you deliver the right emotional content to me when I need it. There'll be some people out there going like, well, Eric, why, if a character has such magnificently mammoth mutton chops, would you bother drawing in the jaw line? You could just quickly draw the mutton chops and draw a line out, and blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, if you're good at just, drawing things and ignoring the understructure, good for you. I am not. I mean, I could probably do it, but it would always look kind of wrong to me. Two, I like to know what's underneath it, so I make sure that the mutton chop or whatever itself feels like it's in the right spot. Like I said, I'm not doing this to just get it done. I'm doing this so I can kind of really understand the character. He's a little Wolverine-y right now, isn't he? Look at that. Alright, so we got, see, for example, here's my mutton chop shape here. Darken it in a little bit. Well, if I got a jawline here, well, look, I've got a jawline here. I mean, it's not real well defined, but it doesn't exactly need to be. So I can kind of follow the line up, and you can kind of see, and then you go, then bring it over and go, okay, now my mutton chop is probably going to come off a little bit. Now, it's not the same in the image here, not exactly, but I don't care. I'm not trying to duplicate exactly what I'm seeing in the image. Okay, I'll quickly darken it in so my eyes don't get too confused. Kind of keep track of what all these lines are. Actually, I'm kind of happy with this so far. I wish they did more with Brutal Legend. That was such a fun license. That's better. That was bugging me. as I nearly launch my coffee right off the table. Watch the coffee. I realize I don't think there's anyone actually watching right now. Nope, I don't seem to have anybody at the moment. And by the time this hits YouTube and our web page, it's going to be a number of months away, perhaps a large number of months away, depending upon how life goes. But I just watched last night the Arrowverse Earth X. Oh, wait. Oh, wife's doing good. Anyway, was watching the whole series last night. I needed a serious lazy boy evening, so I just sat down and watched all 4 of them at once. And first of all, yes, a lot of criticisms of the Arrowverse stuff, Supergirl, The Flash, Arrow, blah, blah, blah. Yes, so a lot of it is in fact, real solid criticisms. It's not a perfect series. But it's kind of an easy way to relax. It's kind of just like watching Hercules and Xena. They're not brilliant shows, but they've got fun storylines and actions and punching and fun costumes and stuff. And every once in a while, some decent story. Anyways, last year's was the Invasion storyline from DC. They brought all the shows together, and it was fun because they brought all the shows together, and there were some fun moments, but it was a little stilted, and I didn't think worked super well, but it worked well enough, and I had some fun with it. But Earth X, this was, I thought, much better put together. I thought it was a whole lot of fun. They didn't like what they do. They started with Supergirl, I think. So it wasn't like mostly a Supergirl episode leading into the story. It was like, no, they were really weaving in between all 4 shows continually, between all 4 of the episodes that happened in the 4 different televised releases of each show. And the first episode was kind of light and a little funny, except for a couple of dark moments, and then as it went on, and the Earth X is where is the alternate version of the Earth where the Nazis won, and it's entirely a fascist planet, and they're getting attacked from present day Nazis, and including Nazi superheroes and stuff, and it was there's some really wonderful moments in it. I thought, without beating you over the head too hard with Nazis are bad, which is a funny thing to say these days, that anybody has the opinion that no, they might be okay. No. But this my favorite moment in it, because it was kind of dark, was they brought the heroes over to the Nazi Earth. And they were in a concentration camp, and the visuals and the lighting and everything was simple, but it was dark and ugly. And even the bright, fun characters like the Flash really looked dark and awful and dreadful in that environment. And then they were taken to be executed, and I'm like, well, they could have done the cheesy kind of, oh, we're just going to shoot you or whatever, do some kind of ridiculous murder device that would have been like in a 60s Batman show. But in this one, it was in the middle of the night, and they walked them out into a long pit to the edge where they were going to shoot them and drop their bodies in, which is one of the ways that the Nazis really actually did it. And I was kind of watching it, going like, okay, they're not going to do this. I know they're not going to do this, but I just was watching it, going like, yeah, they're not turning away from kind of. They're pushing it as far as they can. They're not turning away from, well, let's make this look better. They were, there was more ugliness in it than I was expecting. I felt that if they were going to get really brave, they really could have pushed it, but I think they would have lost some of their audience if they had. So I get why they didn't. But no, I had some fun with it. They made, admittedly, a lot of the Nazi characters, because it didn't have a ton of time. They were kind of two-dimensional, evil, typical fascist types, which unfortunately I think for that type there probably is a whole lot of stereotypes there for extreme. Well, they're extremists. Extremists are often cartoon characters, unfortunately. But it was. I felt it was really quite a bit of fun, and the characters kind of went up against horrible, awful versions of themselves, and I didn't think that it was like a really deep, really well done, really socio-political kind. No, it was just they were kind of showing superhero Nazi characters in a present day Nazi world, and yes, they could have pushed it further, and yes, it could have been more historically accurate, and yes, blah blah blah. But the amount that they did put in there was honestly more than I thought they were going to do. And to this day, he is turning into one of my favorite TV actors, and I feel terrible because I can never remember his name. But on Arrow, he's the guy that plays the Detective Lance, and he's just a wonderful character kind of actor. And there was the Nazi version of him, which is this horrible, like, concentration camp guy. And what I love is nobody else in the show had a German accent. Nobody. He mixed a little bit in for no apparent reason, and it was so wonderful. And he played this wonderfully horrible version of himself, of his Arrow character, and just you could tell it really seemed like the actor was like, oh no, dude, I'm gonna have fun with this. Give me a scar, put me in like the evil black leather commandant outfit, and it was fun. I've always enjoyed that actor. Not that I've seen him in a whole lot more than Arrow, but he's always such a joy to watch in Arrow because he's so good at doing these super ridiculous things and doing it with like a straight face most of the time. I love any actor that can kind of be handed the ridiculous at times and still walking out looking good. That dude is always fun to watch. And he was so super fun and so ridiculously yet chillingly evil in the show. And my favorite bit is where he walks up to the different realities version of his daughter, which they very strongly hinted at that he personally executed because she was gay in his own reality. And you were going like, just like everything about this, they were like, well, let's just have fun with it. Let's make them, Nazis. I'm wondering what kind of stuff is on the internet right now about, the people saying that you can't. I don't know what's going on right now. I don't know why we have Americans kind of thinking this sort of stuff is okay. The present alt-right Nazi stuff, I don't personally understand. I don't get it. I don't see how any American can act like that. But I thought this was awfully fun. I thought they did they kept it fun, and they brought in a lot of the little smatterings of historical stuff and fun. age him up just a little bit. Get some maybe more Clint Eastwoody kind of. I'm still not happy with that mouth. I'm gonna have to work on that. I love drawing mouths, but there's just, for some reason, there's some positions I'm just not good at. Yeah, it's not bad. Not great. I got some issues with it, but for a first shot, considering I've never drawn this character before, not too bad. Might have to reapproach him later. Anywho, thank you for joining me once again for a Sunday morning sketch. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X. Get in there. Wishing you all a good week. I will catch you later. There we go. Having some trouble this time with my Mr. Rogers bit. Okay. Everyone, have a good one. I will catch you next week.